So right now we're solely focused on Côte d'Ivoire and got two projects there. The Napié project, where we're going to announce our maiden resource next month, and that's a farm-in JV with Perseus Mining, which we since consolidated so that we get 90% ownership and they get equity in the company. And the other project is 100% Mako owned one. It's applications that we pegged because of the prospectivity, and we're just about to launch into our maiden drilling program on that.
Welcome to Assay TV. Thanks for tuning in, viewers. We're here at the Mining Indaba, and I'm joined by Peter Ledwidge, Managing Director of Mako Gold. Peter, welcome. Good to be catching up with you.
Yeah, likewise. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So obviously we've done quite a few presentations and discussions and pitches on Mako so far. But why don't you introduce to our viewers the history of the company and your flagship project, and of course your own experience in West Africa. You've been there for a while yourself, of course, with other companies like Orbis and Burkina Faso, for instance. So.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm Managing Director and founder of Mako Gold. So we've been working in West Africa for a long time. First of all, in the mid-90s with Canadian companies, and then more recently, back starting in 2009 with Orbis Gold, when they were doing an entry into West Africa. And so I acquired all the permits for them, led the discovery on the first gold discovery there. I'm a geologist with 30 plus years experience. Worked with my wife and colleague of 30 years, and of course she had to outdo me and lead the team on the next discovery, the Natugu deposit, which became the Bungu mine, which is led to the takeover of the company. And since then, Endeavour took over SEMAFO and is operating that mine for an all-in cost under $700 an ounce US. So all that to say that, you know, we think we know what we're doing in the area. With Mako, we created Mako after Orbis got taken over, so created in 2015 and listed it on the ASX in 2018, and have been going full speed ahead since then. So we made two discoveries, one in Burkina Faso, which we ended up selling last year to Gold, and we wanted to focus on Côte d'Ivoire and for small junior working where we were in that part of the country. It just made sense for us to just focus on Côte d'Ivoire. So right now we're solely focused on Côte d'Ivoire and got two projects there. The Napié project, where we're going to announce our maiden resource next month, and that's a farm-in JV with Perseus Mining, which we since consolidated so that we get 90% ownership and they get equity in the company. And the other project is 100% Mako owned one. It's applications that we pegged because of the prospectivity, and we're just about to launch into our maiden drilling program on that. So yeah, we're very active.
Yeah, lots going on. Well, let's start in with your Napié project and the maiden resource estimate that you're working towards. Now, can you give us some background on that project more specifically, and talk about how you're going to undertake this key milestone as well?
Yeah, so that's the one that we've been really focusing on for the last 2 years, so it's a big project. It's 30 kilometers north-south, about 225 square kilometers, and it's almost like 4 projects within a project. So what we have is a 30-kilometer shear that runs the entire length of the project, and I'm going to get a little technical for some of our viewers here, but there's like a main fault going up, and then there's secondary fault going the other way. And basically what happens when you have that, it creates dilational zones, which is a really good place, you know, for gold deposition. So we've been focusing on 2 of the prospects, the Chaga prospect and the Gogbala prospect, and those are the ones that we've really been drilling to get to the resource stage. So some of our viewers may know that we were about to announce a maiden resource last year, and it was solely on the Chaga prospect. And we delayed that because we started drilling again on the Gogbala prospect, which we hadn't really drilled since listing on 2018 and had good results. And so instead of announcing an average resource, we thought it's in the best interest of all shareholders that we delay it a little bit and go down that route. So, we think that we'll have something north of 500,000 ounces. We think that we can get to 1 million ounces by the end of this year, and within a couple of years have at least 2 million ounces on the ground. So we do have a forward-looking trajectory to basically the ultimate goal is to find something that's mineable.
Yep, certainly. And beyond the resource estimate, are you going to define the resource even further beyond that?
Yeah, so the object just recently, this first quarter, on mostly on the Gogbala prospect, we did 20,000 meters of drilling this quarter, and then we also did 10,000 meters of air core drilling on 2 of the other prospects, and we haven't announced the results on that yet. We're compiling that information. So basically, we've got the Gogbala and Chaga that are going to be, the initial resource, and then we're going to keep growing those, but at the same time, having done the air core drilling and then doing some other, forms of exploration on other prospects, those will be our next resource targets, which is why we think it's totally achievable for us to be up to at least 2 million ounces within 2 years.
Right, awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of drilling coming, and it's an exciting time, I suppose.
Pardon me?
Exciting time on those projects.
It is, absolutely. I mean, you can see my enthusiasm. Yeah. It's we're coming out with really good drill results. So yeah, we're going in the right direction, and we're doing it very methodically.
Let's focus on the JV structure that you mentioned. Just for viewers, I think it would be good to outline how that works and so ownership and how the JV with Perseus.
Yeah.
You go into a bit of detail there.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, we approached Perseus in 2017. At the time, I've been in that space long enough. I know who's got what for mineral inventory, and I knew that they had a couple of projects. That was their tier 2 projects. They were putting Sisanga into production at the time, and we knew that once they got that going, that they'd be working on getting Yaouré into production. So we approached them, and they were more than happy to deal with us, proven explorers, and so we signed an agreement, and in quite short order with them, and so we had earned 51%. So we had 3 years to spend $1.5 million to reach 51%. We did that in just about a year. And so obviously when we have a good project, we move fast on it. And then we could earn up to 75% by taking it to feasibility. So we were getting a little bit of pushback from some of the investors, brokers and whatnot saying, well, you don't have enough ownership of it. So we approached Perseus to see what we could do about it. And once again, their ears were open to dialogue. And so we reached a deal where we get 90% ownership of the permit, and they converted their interest in the permit into equity in Mako. So they get Mako shares. And so every deal's got to have a win-win component to both sides. So for us, it gives us, better ownership of that. And for them, they're exposed to success on our other projects that we currently have or will have in the future.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, a testament to sort of that collaboration, and especially in the region, and the expertise that you can sort of leverage. Thinking of that though, what's your take on West Africa now? Because thinking back to your first comments, you've been there since the 90s. How has the situation changed on the ground in terms of activating a project? How is business different? It's clearly a hub for gold exploration and successful gold exploration and gold mining. So what's your sort of thoughts generally on West Africa at the moment?
I think it's one of the really hot spots to as an explorer to be working, or developer or miner for that matter. I have seen significant changes since I first started working there in the mid-90s, where there just wasn't the talent there because they weren't exposed to the mining industry. And so when, wind forward, went back there, like 15, 20 years later, and then it was actually a shock when I hit the ground, because all of a sudden I see, wow, there's, all this, really highly educated community there that are, the Canadians had been in, the Australians had been in, the Russians, good explorers, South Africans. And so where before that talent wasn't there, it's there now. And so the administration grew with that. So, for example, if you look at Côte d'Ivoire specifically, their GDP comes from agriculture. They're the world's biggest cocoa producer. They get other, real valid industries, like oil business. But I think in the last 10, 15 years or so, they saw neighboring countries like Mali, Burkina, and so on, develop their industries. So, they were smart and they started developing that. But because of that, because they're a little bit, I was just in a forum discussion, and they were saying, yeah, we're not quite up to those people yet, but which is where the golden opportunities are, excuse the pun, because, for example, we have two projects. One of them, obviously, Perseus has taken it up to the stage where, wow, it's ready for drilling. And then our second project has never been drilled. So why would I be looking somewhere else in the world when, there's pure, virgin ground that's never been drilled in a greenstone belt that hosts, some large deposits. So, yeah, the administration is very easy to work with as well. People assume that it's going to be difficult, but it's not. And they get good, clear, transparent regulations, and you know what you're working with, and there's no surprises.
Yeah, and your workforce is mostly local Côte d'Ivoire expertise as well.
Exactly. We've got. We don't have one expatriate on the ground now. When I say that, we've got a few Burkinabés that we've worked with, and there are some of our key management people that we've worked with for 10 years that came over from Orbis with us. But why would I, hire someone from somewhere else? And I get people asking me for jobs all the time, fresh out of uni, the UK, Canada, Australia, whatever. And it's just like, sorry, when I first went over there, 25 years ago or so, I was there as a senior geologist because there wasn't the talent, but now there's a talent. So, and if you hire locals, they know how to get things done much better than somebody that doesn't know the country. So, so it's really easy, on that front, because even myself, I don't deal with the local communities. People want to deal with locals, and for the CSR.
Indeed. So it's another point then, is that you're very well traveled, obviously, as an international CEO and miner, but you're a Canadian with the West African experience, but the ASX listing. Is there any sort of advantages or benefit or reason behind the ASX listing?
Yeah, so when we were doing our IPO in 2018, when we were going around doing our road shows and everything, and people assume because I have Canadian accent that we're going to be TSX listed, and we think that the ASX is a really strong place. I mean, Australia runs on mining. That's the backbone of the industry. I realize Canada, is very well endowed as well, mineral resources, but there's other things that you have to compete against. In Canada, you got to compete, relatively recently with the cannabis industry, and a few of the other things as well. Whereas, basically, ASX is majority. It's mining, and people understand it, and so they're happy to invest in it.
Certainly makes sense. Excellent. Okay, so just to sum up for the investors watching, key milestones this year that everyone should be aware of for Mako.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get a re-rating despite the horrible markets that we've been experiencing lately. So we'll get our resource out, and we quite confident that we can grow it to 1 million ounces by the end of the year. We're not making any promises because I don't put anything in writing, but that is the goal, and then also potential discovery on that's on our Napié project, and on the next belt over on the Mako Gold Project, which is within 15 to 30 kilometers of Barrick's 5 million ounce Tongan mine, which is running out of reserves, so we have the potential for toll milling there. So potential for a discovery there about the same time that we announce our resource on Napié. So lots of news flow coming up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Well, thanks for speaking with Assay TV, and we look forward to tracking and keeping updated on the story as it progresses this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Peter.